Hello and welcome to Politics Today. I'm Farooq Patafi. Once again, we are going to talk about politics of Pakistan. But over the weekend, we have seen some very interesting developments. Remember, the previous week, we were mostly discussing Maulana Fazlur Rahman's sit-in. And at that time, there was also this distant echo that Mian Nawaz Sharif should be or shouldn't be allowed to leave the country for his treatment abroad. Over the weekend, what we saw was a decision came. Before that, the government of Pakistan decided that there should be indemnity bonds worth 7.5 billion rupees that should be submitted by the House of Sharif before Nawaz Sharif can be taken abroad. But later on, what we saw was a verdict came, Honorable High Court of Lahore High Court actually decided that Mian Nawaz Sharif should be allowed to go abroad for his treatment for 4 days. This is one development. But the mega issue that we were facing during the previous week was Maulana Fazlur Rahman's sit-in. And that seems to have just gone away. Maulana has decided that he is going for or opting for a plan B. And that plan B involves blocking the highways in the country so that the life is not disrupted, but they get whatever they want. Interestingly, highways also include life, right? We all actually travel on highways around the country. So we are going to talk about these matters and more, and to understand what to expect from coming days, whether all this is going to decrease the temperature, lower the temperature or not. And then we are going to talk about the possibility of some kind of national reconciliation in this polarizing time. In order to help us understand these issues, we are joined by Zain Qureshi Saab, who is an MNA of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, the ruling party. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Next to him is, after a long time, Shoaib Shaheen Saab, a senior advocate, and also a legal activist. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Next to him is Zafar Sheikh Saab. Zafar Sheikh Saab is a senior journalist, does appear on this program as well. Thank you very much, Zafar Sheikh Saab, for being part of the program. Zain Qureshi Saab, first of all, I have to start with you, sir. And I have to ask you, we understand that there was a verdict given by Lahore High Court. And it seems that the government is going to let Mian Nawaz Sharif go abroad. But the question is, how are you going to ensure that he returns to the country after 4 weeks, or in case he regains health quicker?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Patafi Saab, firstly I'd like to thank you for inviting us to your program. And I'd like to take you one step back. In this entire scenario of Nawaz Sharif Saab's illness, there are three contributing factors.
Right.
NAB, the courts, and the government.
Right.
He was under custody of NAB. His initial punishment was given through the courts, and whatever relief he's attained has been through the courts. And the government was, the only part they played was the ECL. So as far as the ECL is concerned, I think we need to make this very clear that the rules were followed. Whatever the subcommittee of the cabinet decided, whatever the rules were, which were made in Chaudhry Nisar's time, PMLN's government, were followed to the spirit.
You're talking about indemnity bonds as well?
Absolutely.
Because we don't see that written in any law.
Well, that was open to interpretation.
Yeah.
The law minister was heading the subcommittee, and it was the interpretation of the law ministry at the time, and they felt that a guarantee, like you're asking what's the guarantee? At this point in time, there's absolutely no guarantee.
Right.
And that's the case because the Honorable Lahore High Court has decided that it is not required. We respect the decision of the High Court, and that's that.
Okay. So even if Mian Nawaz Sharif doesn't come back or decides not to come back, you won't be worried about it?
I don't think I'm in a position to worry about it because...
Why not? Because your party, it is one of the, rallying call of your party.
The Prime Minister has been very clear in his stance. And I think today in his speech, again, he reiterated what his stance was. The Prime Minister feels anybody, irrespective of who they are, if they have taken from the national exchequer, they should not be given any relief.
Right.
If over and above what the Prime Minister feels, the court decides to give someone relief,
Right.
we have to honour the decision of the Honourable Court.
Right. Let me bring in Shoaib Shaheen Saab. Sir, your take on this entire verdict and how things are going to be in coming days.
I think there is no dispute on this that the health condition of Mian Nawaz Sharif was not good. So it requires to go abroad. So it was consensus between all the concerned stakeholders.
Right.
So the other thing is whether the
Can you
law
identify
minister,
the stakeholders?
stakeholders means stakeholder in this case is the NAP,
Right.
stakeholder is the government, stakeholder is the Ministry of Law, stakeholder is the court, stakeholder is the sub court, or the any other person which is the party which is the Mian Nawaz Sharif.
Okay.
So I think there was a consensus between all of them that he may be given a chance or a permission may be given to them for a certain period that he should go abroad. But the one thing was very important, what is the guarantee that he will return back? So it is the thing, which requires consideration, which requires to be considered and determination. So for that purpose, Ministry of Law has given its verdict, or the committee constituted by the Prime Minister has given its verdict, which was endorsed by the Cabinet. So I think now the matter is pending before the, now matter has been decided by the court.
Right.
So now it is the burden upon the court to have the surety that he will come back.
Okay.
If he does not come back, one thing is that he is committing a contempt of court, he and Mian Shahbaz Sharif.
Right.
So this is one aspect. And the other aspect is that undertaking given before the court is deemed to be an order of the court.
Right.
So he can be brought back on the directions of the court because the undertaking was given before a superior court, which before the Honorable High Court.
The Honorable Court can order that a person must be repatriated. The problem is whether Pakistan has the kind of agreements with the World Committee or not.
That is another problem.
Yeah.
That is another subject.
So
Because
whose
the
problem
family
is that?
members of Mian Nawaz Sharif are already residing from the competent court of law.
Okay.
His two sons and the son of Mian Shahbaz Sharif and other relatives.
It's Sardar actually. There's
Sardar
a big
himself.
example here.
He was a finance minister at that time.
Yeah.
When he went abroad and he did not come back.
Yeah.
Sitting finance minister of the government.
And
did
he
not come
still
back.
is
He still
said
is.
to be ill, right?
And he said that I'm not sick, I'm sick, I'm not feeling well, but he opted not to come back.
So how do you
that will be a
reconcile all of
problem.
this?
That will be a problem if he does not come back. But the situation is now the present government has maximum done its duty by seeking an indemnity bond or security whatsoever it may be called. But the other thing is now the court has decided this aspect.
Right.
So the issue is
Before
with the,
we
before
go
the
to court, there is a very crucial aspect that we have to look at. How the government defended its cause in the court. Are you satisfied as a lawyer how the government was defending its
yes,
case?
defend the
The
government has defended
indemnity
its case.
bond and all?
Yes, sure. He was the additional Attorney General
Yeah.
Ishtiaq Ahmad Khan. I know him personally. He was member of Pakistan Bar Council with me.
Right.
So he is a very competent lawyer. He defended the case in its true perspective. I think there is no failure on the part of the government at this stage,
Right.
and on the part of the lawyer representing the
Because
federal government.
the way you have actually qualified the argument in support of indemnity bond could have been made in the court as well.
Yes,
We
they
kept
did.
on reading all the tickers on television screen.
I think
we
they
didn't
did.
see that came out.
I
that
think
often.
they did.
Okay.
I think he did. The additional Attorney General who was appearing on behalf of the federal government, he did his job.
Okay.
But the thing is whether the interpretation made by the Honorable High Court is convincing for us, convincing for the people of Pakistan, convincing for the parliamentarians or for the parties. Now all of us had to accept the verdict given by the Honorable Court.
course, of
So-
course, but-
So we had to.
And we
Because
have to
if the other
understand
party,
it also,
If the
right?
other party, yes, if
Yeah.
the other party has an objection to it, they have an opportunity to approach the Supreme Court of Pakistan.
Right. And I'm going to ask Zain Qureshi Sahab later in the program whether they are going to go for a review or not. But let me bring in Zafar Sheikh Sahab. Sir, as a journalist, how do you read the entire development?
Thank you, Farooq. I have two different opinions.
Okay.
One is mine, and the second, the signal I'm receiving from the masses.
Okay.
So today, I think I should prefer and confine myself to the opinion of the masses.
No, confine it to your opinion. But then I'll ask you, how do you actually ensure that that signal comes to you?
Actually, the judgment of the Lahore High Court has sent a very negative message in the streets.
Okay.
And they feels that
Don't-
our higher courts
Okay.
are not. They are very much sympathetic with the elite, political elite, especially those who are being involved in the corruption when they were rulers.
Okay.
So
No, but why are you putting onus on the honorable court? You can say that, you can disagree with the verdict. People can disagree with the verdict. But why actually put the onus on the court?
actually, this is
Don't
not
do
the,
it.
this is not the first case. I mean, if you have gone
No,
through
but,
the
here's the thing, and you'll have to hear me out here.
Yes, please.
I mean, of course, Pakistan has a constitution, and that constitution views every citizen as equal, right? But Pakistan is also a democracy that is evolving. In that, you have to actually look at the circumstances and who we are talking about. If a man who is sick, who has been Prime Minister of Pakistan 3 times, if he is given case-to-case basis, he is given some kind of relief, you are going to disagree with that?
No, not exactly.
Okay.
But you see, the permission was actually given by the government.
Okay.
And they have given clearly on humanitarian grounds, not on legal grounds.
Right.
And the condition they imposed, they said, and they clearly said that it is a binding upon them as per the law, existing law. That's why they put condition. It had nothing to do with politics. But the whole issue was made politicized because we are living in a polarized environment. So in polarized and political environment, everything is being considered with
Yeah.
some strings
Is
attached.
it
to
a polarized society, or is it a post-truth society where we don't think that we are entitled to our own opinion, but we are entitled to our own facts as well? Whatever you are doing will be perceived as the greatest step for humanity and the worst conspiracy against humanity.
This
by
is an
the
ideal
village.
approach, and definitely nobody can disagree with that. But especially when we go and look at the ground realities in a polarized environment, mostly society or the people, they made their opinion on the basis of their approach. Either they are supporting this side or that side. I mean, in the same case, if you take the opinion among the masses of all those who are supporting either government side or the opposition side, they definitely have different arguments and
Right.
different opinion as well on the same judgment. But it is a political implication as well.
Right.
And also the leaving of Nawaz Sharif Sahab from Pakistan has a political implication. Definitely it's going to change the entire political paradigm of the country.
Okay.
And in my opinion, it is very less likely that he will be returning back within given time.
Here's another very interesting argument given by PMLN supporters, and I kept on asking them, and they kept on arguing this. They said that when this verdict was announced, that he has to be incarcerated, he was abroad and he came back. So he might come back this time also. How do you view this argument?
I mean, it is a very strong ground behind that, because when he was returning back at that time, he was knowing that he is not going to the politics, he is directly going to Adiala jail.
Right.
And it was a very brave
Except-
political decision at that point.
Yeah, but
there
here's
was another
another
factor.
here's another very interesting aspect, that at that time they were expecting an election, and he knew that if he didn't come back,
Yes, that's
they're never going to win the election, right? So it is 50-50, and we have to try understanding all those aspects. Zain Qureshi Sahab, is the government going to appeal or dispute this decision?
I think this morning they received the long order of
Yeah.
the High Court, and the Law Ministry is reviewing it. The legal experts are reviewing it. Any decision that's taken will be taken once
Right.
they have done a thorough examination and analysis of,
Right.
of
And
the
how,
decision.
are we talking about any time frame? How much time will it take?
It shouldn't take long. If they want to
Right.
appeal against it, then it should be done in a timely fashion.
Right.
But it has to be done having looked at given it a whole holistic approach and having seen all angles.
Yeah, but I want to understand that are we talking about hours, days, weeks, months?
Unfortunately, I'm not one of those legal experts.
Okay.
They will be in a better position to
Okay,
answer that.
but you are a lawmaker, and here's another argument, that the government can dispute the outcome. But had you actually been focusing more on lawmaking, and you would have updated the ECL law, you wouldn't have needed any interpretation of the law. I mean, you could have very easily, one ordinance was introduced that people who have been who are being probed or who have been found guilty are not entitled to be A or B category jailed, right? They have to go for the C category. So why not actually create a law that says that if you want to, you are under trial or you have been found guilty, if you leave the country, you have to submit indemnity bonds.
Patafi Saab, if you want my personal opinion on the matter, I'm a first-time parliamentarian. I've obviously viewed this parliament from the galleries my entire life. My father
And let me also say here, for the record, that people should not be deceived by the grey hair.
They
You are a
should
very
not.
young man.
Yeah, I am indeed. But obviously, one viewed Parliament from the galleries, having my father being in politics and family before. And you know, I came with a very idealistic view that when I become a member of Parliament, I'll come and debate on laws and we will form laws. Unfortunately, and I've said this publicly, the environment within the National Assembly has been so toxic and it's been so polarized. Zafar Saab mentioned it as well. It's been so polarized that we actually have not been able to do our primary function, which is legislation.
And who is polarizing it?
I think everybody is has played a part in it.
Okay, okay. Not
So
the-
in an ideal world, I would love to
the
see
treasury
in an
benches are
ideal
not
world,
cultivated.
I would love to see less polarization and more business being conducted. What we've been elected to do, what we've come here as representatives to do, that's legislation.
Yeah, but as a lawmaker, don't you think that the parliament that you represent is sort of failing right now in doing the task that was its job actually?
I would not go to that extent. I think the Parliament has, when push has come to shove, the Parliament has done its duty. In terms of the Kashmir issue, we did pass a joint resolution of Parliament. We have shown solidarity where national interest is concerned. And hopefully, I think, after all of this episode is over, things should become better. The environment should improve and we should get back to it.
You're talking, which episode are you talking about?
This,
Nawaz Sharif?
before this, it was the, allowing members to come on production orders. Now it was Mian Nawaz Sharif's illness and him going abroad. So as these contentious issues are being resolved, I think Parliament should
There's
get
the
back to
first
its
issue that seems to have been resolved, but you have to realize that there are many. But you talked about a resolution being passed on Kashmir. You realize that in the list of priorities, it must be number 3 or number 4 resolutions because they don't have teeth. The first thing is lawmaking, the second is oversight.
Absolutely.
And in both those things, Parliament has hardly anything to show.
Because the one thing that has been lacking is the cohesion in Parliament. You see, Parliament also requires numbers. Parliament also requires sessions to take place where laws are debated.
And your
before they
party
come
is in treasury benches, right?
Our party is in treasury benches, but it's, like I said, everybody's a stakeholder.
Right, but there are two arguments, Shoaib Shaheen Saab. A, that stakeholders in democracy, they have to resolve their issues. Otherwise, it becomes an open invitation for stakeholders, right? At this moment, the circumstances are quite different. Lawmaking, if this ECL issue was to be resolved, I mean, nobody would have gone to the courts if the law was very clear on this matter. Don't you think so?
You are right, but when there is a confusion or ambiguity in law, the interpretation is to be made by the high courts or by the Supreme Court, whatever.
And the courts are doing their job. But
courts
is
are
the
doing their
parliament
job.
also doing it?
Yes, there is a failure on the part of the Parliament, I will say. That is not the first choice, first chance. But you see what was issue. In Panama case, the Parliament was not doing anything, so the matter went to the court and the court decided that aspect. So at this stage also, in the issue of ECL is not the issue of the Parliament. I don't think so. That although it needs that the law relating to ECL should be changed or modified or whatever it may
upgraded,
be
right?
or upgraded, but when this situation came, there was no time to amend the law in this shortest period of time. So I think whatever was
I mean, with due respect, this discussion about Mian Nawaz Sharif's health has been going on for the last 1.5 months.
not only the issue of Mian Nawaz Sharif, there are many convicts.
Yeah.
You see, Dr. Asim went abroad after giving surety to the court, Supreme Court of Pakistan, and he came back.
Okay.
And similarly, there are many convicts who are behind the bar or sometime who are on bail. So that
Dr.
issue
Asim
needs
was
to
a
be.
convict or was being prosecuted?
No, I think he was under trial. He was
Under trial, right?
He was under
There's
trial.
a
But he
difference.
was, his bail was rejected
Do
at
we
that
have
time.
any other example of anybody who
I
was a
don't know.
convict,
I
with the
don't know.
exception of Sharif family itself?
I don't know. I
Because
think
during, during Pervez Musharraf's time also,
he was under trial.
no, but there was a verdict given.
No,
I mean,
there was no
but
verdict. He was under trial at that time.
hijack case had
Yes,
found
yes.
a conclusion.
Against Sharif family. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
Yes.
He was
But
given
Pervez Musharraf himself
credentials
was
for-
under trial when he was released on ECL.
So
Was-
do
he was
we
sent on-
honestly need a kind of dialogue on these matters? Because it seems that things, when we are talking about law, when
One
we are
thing is
talking
important.
about lawmaking, when we are talking about executive power, we are talking about limited variables. But in Pakistan, the variables go crazy. There are so many variables that you cannot control.
But the dialogue with whom?
The
Dialogue with whom?
dialogue
When
inside
there are
the society.
three major parties. There are three major parties.
Yeah.
One is PTI,
Okay.
who is in the helm of affairs.
Right.
The other two parties are facing trial and convictions.
Okay.
So the dialogue between
No,
to
but I am
whom?
not talking about political dialogue. I was talking, referring to the Honorable Chief Justice's comment when he took over the mantle.
but
He
the
said
Honorable-
that there should be a national dialogue between institutions.
One thing is very important, the Honorable Chief Justice, present Chief Justice, very honest, very competent person, but the problem is what he did. He even cannot appoint the very competent judges, the persons who are very honest and competent judges. It could not be done by him. So the job which is given to the Supreme Judicial Council, headed by the Chief Justice of Pakistan, when he could not perform his own duty, how he can in the shortest period of
I'll
time.
ask you, with due respect, you're a lawyer, you face him daily, but I will request you to
my-
actually take these comments
my-
back because they can be deemed as some kind of,
He is doing his job, but
Yeah, thank you
I
very
am
much.
saying,
Now, let me
that
go
the
to
things
share.
which are expected from this kind of a person,
No, but you
which could
expect
not
them.
be done from him.
No, but you expect from him, right? But he is talking about the systemic bottlenecks that are within the system and they need to be resolved.
Yes, it can
and
be.
They will not be because in their own nature, every institution wants to assert itself.
Yes.
And there might be lack of legal
The
grounds.
speech of the first day was very important. It should
Right.
have been implemented,
And
but it has
will
not
be.
been done.
He still is in office.
But he is going
Zafar
after
Sheikh
1 month,
Saab-
just after 1 month. he is going.
Zafar Sheikh Saab, let me ask you now. When we are talking about Parliament and Parliament's job, is it not important to question that? Because in the past 1.5 years, we haven't seen that kind of progress in the Parliament. Remember, in this country, there are people who still challenge the parliamentary, form of government. And they keep on arguing that Pakistan must be or should be a presidential form of government, right?
Because of the desperation.
Okay.
And so many people.
Whose desperation?
I mean, those who are challenging
I swear,
the parliamentary
my
form
guests
of
today, two of them at least are exploding bombs in the program today. Okay, go ahead.
Actually, this presidential parliamentary form of government,
Yeah.
it's gradually losing its
Appeal?
appeal to the masses. That's why there is a thinking among some intellectuals, even lawyers, that maybe this form of governance system doesn't suit Pakistan anymore, and it should be transformed into presidential parliamentary system or that one.
Well,
That's the
whatever.
reason.
Yeah.
But for your basic question about the parliament, the lawmaking is the basic responsibility of the parliament, not only to the government.
Yeah.
Equally, it's the responsibility of the opposition.
Right.
But since our opposition is extremely experienced politicians, they know how to tackle some of the newcomers
Okay.
on the part of the government, PTI. PTI first time came into parliament.
Okay.
And they were not been able to successfully handle the tricky approach of the opposition.
Why are you saying that? I
May
mean,
may I add to that?
Yeah.
With due respect, I disagree with Zafar Saab. As far as an academic debate is concerned, you can have as much of a debate as you like, whether you want a presidential form of government or not. But fact of the matter is there is a constitution and you do require a 2/3 majority.
Absolutely.
So that's not going to happen. Still, you
It
don't
is
have
not.
that. So till you don't have that majority, it will always remain an academic
It will
argument.
not happen if the parliament does its job. If the
So coming to
discussion
that,
or
now,
discourse says
coming,
that it is failing,
now coming to the
I'm
second
a
part.
big believer in parliamentary form of democracy.
I'm glad to hear that.
And
So
I am
am I.
having crisis of faith.
Now, coming to the second part, where Zafar Saab feels, and he has every right to feel that way, that the government is the first-time government and it lacks the experience. I don't think that's true. Within the government, we have very experienced veterans of parliament. What you need to understand, what has happened is that when this government came in, I mean, I don't want to take up your entire program, but fact of the matter is, the synopsis is, when this government came in, we had a huge economic crisis. And the Prime Minister was clear on one thing from day one, that he will not give anybody who was taken from the National Exchequer any leeway.
Okay.
And he went after them.
Right.
Now, when he went after them, and the two are, like Shoaib Saab was saying, there's three main players in the country. There's PTI, and then there's the two largest parties in the opposition. The leadership of the two
And
largest
Maulana
parties in the
Fazlur
opposition,
Rahman is not a player.
I wouldn't
Because
say the
he was
main
sitting
player.
here.
Now
He
he
was
has come in.
patronizing the city.
Now he is.
He may be wanting to become a main player, but he's not a main player yet. He's still on the bench.
Okay. Anybody who
So-
can patronize the federal capital or try to do it is supposed to be a player, quite a big
But
player.
he cannot be in the parliament for more than 4 or 5 seats maximum.
Yeah.
Oh,
And the fact that he's not currently in parliament himself is probably half the problem.
Street power is something
Half the
else.
problem,
Street power is something else. Jamaat Islami or Jamiat Ulama Islam, whatsoever.
Precisely.
Right.
But they cannot.
So street power is not something
Having
that
said
we
that,
take into cognizance.
if you just allow me to finish my argument,
please
my argument was that because the Prime Minister came in with this very clear determination, and he has gone after it in letter and spirit, now the effectees of his decision happen to be the leadership of the two largest parties. And because of that, when he's gone after them, the environment in parliament has been toxic and polarized. Because of that polarization, you have not been able to legislate. You know, as things happen,
And let me actually include also the opposition's point of view, because it is important. Maiza Hamid, MNA of Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, has joined us on telephone. Thank you very much, ma'am, for being part of the program. Now the discussion is about two factors. One, of course, the verdict of Mian Nawaz Sharif leaving the country. What is the plan there? You can tell us, because now it is your party's call mostly. And the second question is about the parliament's performance. And the treasury benches keep on saying that it is the opposition which is not playing the ball.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you for taking me on the phone. As far as Mia Muhammad Nawaz Sharif's health is concerned, it's been delayed a lot as far as the government is concerned. The courts have been very kind. They have given the permission. And considering his critical health condition, which the government has also verified after making 3 boards, medical boards, I believe that, the courts have allowed him to go abroad and get the necessary treatment that is needed. And we're all praying that, he'll get better and soon come back to Pakistan. But my point would be that, the delay on the part of the government was very immature and very vindictive, as it always is. And I would call it immature also, considering the fact that there was they should keep the sanctity of the institutions. They should think of them as more important rather than their own egos. They should have.
Maiza Sahaba, there is another question that I asked as well, and then you have to tell us about the schedule as well. When is the Mian Nawaz Sharif is going to be flown outside the country? There is one question. The second question is about parliamentary procedures and whether the opposition is being cooperative or not.
I believe it's in tomorrow morning. He's leaving by air ambulance, where every kind of basic facilities will be in the place, and we are hoping that he reaches his destination safely, and the party is
Okay.
behind him. The party, political party is behind him, and the family is behind him, and we are intact as a major opposition in the parliament. And as far as the parliament is concerned, parliament, like any other institution, has been is basically being slowly being eroded by PTI, and by passing ordinances, presidential ordinances, it shows how insecure the government is as far as passing bills are concerned, and
Right.
and then their speakers also on stay order. And the point is that and then the opposition members who have been who are taken by NAB, they are never produced by the NAB. So there's always a one issue or the other which
Right.
stalls the performance of the parliament.
Right. Maizar
And,
Sahiba, thank you very much
the
for your
government-
participation, and let me come back to the studio. And I'm not going to directly go to Zain Qureshi Sahib, although there can be a dialogue or discussion, but first I have to come back to you. This argument that Parliament, I mean, the Treasury benches say that the opposition is not playing ball. We know that for only for the position of Public Accounts Committee, the opposition kept on actually dilly-dallying for quite some time, and eventually the government had to agree. But on the other side, the opposition says that the government is hell-bent on bulldozing everything as a neutral bystander.
No, I think
What is your
it's a
thought?
very harsh comment that government is bulldozing everything, and it's a ordinance factory is being made. I don't agree with that because the previous governments, they have a very bad track record.
I mean, PMLN did it also.
Yes, more than 50 in a 1 year. So that was also a very bad precedence. But until now, they have only produced 11.
Okay.
And the list of the new bills being introduced in the parliament I was going through, there are some, especially those CRPC, criminal justice system related amendments also there.
Which are very, very important.
Very important, and what the colleague Shoaib Saab was pointing out, the first speech of the Chief Justice, he was eclectically pointed out these amendments that needs to be made on priority basis.
Okay.
And now I think the government is heading towards that.
So who is-
but this process has to be, I mean, speed up.
Shakes up, so who is to blame?
I think both should be blamed.
Okay.
Because it's a very clear
Can
indication.
can you give us some proportion? How much the government should be, blamed and how much opposition?
Because opposition was being playing that that like it is their success that if they are not letting the government to pass on such bill,
Right.
it is not a success.
And these are the parties which have been, claiming that they are custodians of the parliament.
And it is the responsibility, equal responsibility of the both parties, and
right.
especially in this parliament when all the standing committees which has actually processing the bills and other legal system, they are equally divided between the government and the opposition.
Shoaib Shaheen Sahib, do you want to add into this?
I think both are responsible, but it is the responsibility of each and every member of the parliament to perform his duty, to do his job, which is required under the constitution to do. So they had to perform according to the constitution, and they are bound under the law and the constitution, and they should give its independent opinions. If there is amendment in the constitution, if there is amendment in law, if there is amendment in CPC, if there is amendment in CRPC, they should work, they should not only work whether the government has been or the parliamentary bench has been failed, they should work what they are doing.
Earlier you pointed out something, that there are three stakeholders, right?
Yes.
One is the ruling party, the other two are being tried right now. And when you try to talk to them, they first demand concessions, or it so seems. So how are you going to reconcile those
You see,
realities?
the lawmaking is a separate job, and the executive job is another subject.
In what
so,
world, sir?
So I am thinking that when the parliamentarians have to give its answer that what they did, so making a noise, making the opposition only against the law, which is a good law. For example, if there is a good amendment, if it is a good law, if they oppose, they are also held responsible equally like the
And who is going to hold them responsible?
responsible by the people of Pakistan.
Is it
The
not
public
true
at
that
large.
when you talk about parliamentary democracy, people don't understand that they are electing the lawmakers to make laws? They want them to be elected so that they can fix their nalas and their street lamps and all that.
That is the problem. You see, even now, the other democratic institutions, those are not working.
Right.
So that is their obligation of the present government. They should hand over all these construction things to the subordinate democratic institutions,
Right.
and they should focus on that the parliament should work on the lawmaking.
Right.
So that is the
This is important.
responsibility of the present government, because they had agitating this matter since long.
Let me come back to Zain Qureshi Sahab and ask him. Of course, we can see that there are certain aspects which are not reconcilable, right? But there are many others that you can control. For example, lowering the temperature. It is believed that PTI actually raises the temperature a lot. Always everybody talking about the opposition as the corrupt people, right?
But Dr. Saab, you'll allow me to first comment on
Please do.
Maiza's comments. With due respect, I could not disagree with her more.
Okay.
The government and the Prime Minister from day one agreed that Mia Nawaz Sharif was ill and required medical attention.
Okay.
It was determined that the medical attention Mia Sahib requires will not be given in Pakistan and he will go abroad. For that purpose, the government has followed the law and procedure down to the T.
Okay.
Whatever the requirements were, the government followed. The subcommittee of the cabinet gave its analysis and its verdict and asked for indemnity bond. If Mia Nawaz Sharif was so unwell, why could they not give the bond and then take him away ASAP, because they say every second counts? It is PMLN that has played politics on Mia Saab's health,
Okay.
not the government.
Okay.
So now for a PMLN member of parliament to come and say that the government has dilly-dallied or the government has played politics on it, I think it's very unfair.
I took those
In the-
comments as political comments.
Exactly.
So
In the
let
same- in the
us cut
same
to the
vein-
chase and come back to the
In the
issue.
same vein, when she says, or if any opposition member says that the government has failed in parliamentary practice or in legislation, I would like to point out that the opposition has also not played its role. Because like you said, and like we're all saying, in order to legislate, you need to have parliament functioning. Every time the government has come in the 14 months that I've been a member of this parliament, it has either been opposition has walked out on production orders, that we haven't given production orders. I'll give you a small example to cut the long story short.
Yeah.
Again, I will refer back to that joint session of Parliament in Kashmir. Here is Pakistan trying to give a unified front. We're saying that this is something that's a national issue and the entire Pakistani Parliament and the people of Pakistan stand together.
Right.
Where the President of Pakistan is addressing a joint session of Parliament, it is the opposition that is creating a ruckus and then walking out of that. So how can they say they're playing ball? They have not played ball.
Right. But here's the problem. The onus still has to be on the treasury benches, and they have to find a way, like there are two examples. One, pass the laws. Otherwise, if you are failing to pass the laws, then actually go for next elections.
My final comment on that before I answer this is that you said that people want people to fix their nalis and they don't.
They do.
I honestly don't think that's true.
Okay.
I don't think you're giving the people of Pakistan enough credit. I think now with the advent of
I'm not a
social-
politician. I'm people of Pakistan, by the way.
with the advent of social media and I think 70 plus talk shows a week, I think the average Pakistani is very aware of what is happening in his country. And a very good example of
Yeah,
that
but,
is the 2018 elections.
In order to give the people of Pakistan credit, then you'll have to give credit to television stations as well.
I give them
That
all
is
the
not the
credit.
case.
I give them all the credit.
They are not educating people.
I give people who do educate people in the right manner all the credit, and I feel the 2018 election is the reflection of that.
Okay.
PTI had not made anybody solings on nalis. The fact that PTI has come into government is because the people of Pakistan felt that the people who were in government for the last 30 years have not been able to deliver, and therefore they've given PTI a chance.
It was
So
a hung
if
parliament.
It was a hung parliament where still PTI formed government.
Right,
PTI
it
got
did.
enough seats.
It did.
You know.
But
So
I
my point is-
believe in democracy.
My point is you have to give the people of Pakistan more credit.
Yeah.
It is not that they don't understand what's happening. I think they are well
And my
aware.
question then is, when is the parliament going to show that it is worthy of that confidence and that trust?
I think the parliament does show they're worthy of their confident trust, and inshallah, over the course of these 5 years, you will see a lot of development.
4 years. One has
Four more,
already
five
passed.
in total,
Yeah.
five in total, but 4 more.
Okay.
And like I said, and as you earlier mentioned about lowering the temperature, I do believe, and this is my personal view, that the temperature needs to be lowered in order for the parliament to conduct its business, like I said earlier.
Yeah.
We need parliament to do its primary job, which is legislation. And for that, I think everybody, if the treasury benches have a role to play, so does the opposition.
Right.
Everyone has a role to play to lower that temperature, to create an enabling environment for parliament to function. And when parliament functions, the lawmaking will take place, legislation will take place, and Pakistan will benefit.
And you think it is going to happen?
I am very confident it should happen.
And what are the indicators which make you believe that it will happen?
Like I said to you earlier,
One, Nawaz Sharif's verdict.
Like I said to you earlier, when those major contentious issues are either resolved or taken out of the equation,
Okay.
then I think we will all be able to come together. And
Which one are taken out of equation?
I don't know what you want me to say, but fact of the matter is,
I want to
this-
understand what you're saying.
fact of the matter, this was one of them.
Right. Zafar Sheikh Saab, I'm told that we have to focus now on conclusions. Please go ahead.
So
and
my small comment on this legislation business is that there are provision in the legislative rules and procedures
Yeah.
that in case of urgency, with the consent and understanding of the government and opposition, rules can be suspended, and a speedy legislation can also be done.
Okay.
We haven't seen it in last 15
Right.
months. So I think if government want to improve the
You're
impression,
talking about
they
rule of
can-
business, right?
Rules
In
of
the
business
parliament,
can be suspended temporarily,
okay.
and they can go for the on those areas where both have the same
No,
opinion.
but here's the problem, and perhaps this is where you and I are failing as journalists, to actually communicate to the people that there is a crisis in the making if laws are not made. And whosoever is responsible, it is a big issue, right? Media is not focusing on legislative business at all. It keeps on talking about Mian Nawaz Sharif Sehat, it keeps on talking about corruption or no corruption, and things which are remotely not related to a common man's well-being.
Sir, basically speaking, whatever we are talking about legislation is actually for the people.
Right, and you have to,
And-
people will have to demand this and then it will happen.
Yes, I think in their respective fields there are demands. If you go for any kachehri or any lawyer on different issues, even the banking system or other system,
Right.
people say, "Yeah, this law needs to be amended," and we are being asked by the government.
Somebody has to actually come up with the solutions and the parliament has to be it. I'll take that as your conclusion, Shoaib Sheikh Saab, very quickly. Shoaib Shaheen Saab, yeah, very quickly, your conclusion, sir.
I think if the present crisis continues, Imran Khan can give a surprise to the public by dissolving the National Assembly and thereafter for fresh elections.
Yeah, but that will be
Probably.
at the
That
cost
may
of
take
exchequer,
1
right?
year or 2 years.
But that will be a cost to exchequer.
That can be.
And we
but what
just
should- what
mentioned
should
that
be the-
there is an economic
That is the
problem
thing.
in the country.
But keeping in view the present circumstances, when no
Yeah.
law is being made, when the National Assembly is not performing or the Parliament is not performing, so keeping in view all these facts and circumstances,
we have to have
probably-
these discussions
probably-
and we have to
probably.
keep on asking this question. But Zain Qureshi Saab, because I have brought the final conclusion to you and you are going to conclude, nobody can be considered to be a mega mind, right? The parliament has to actually be the think tank of the country. And that is where it can understand the quantities that are there and actually reconcile them. When is the parliament going to do that?
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, we don't have to jump to such dangerous conclusions and say that Parliament needs to be dissolved because
No,
it's
I'm
not
not.
functioning.
I mean, it is an opinion.
It's an opinion. It's an opinion.
It is
I
a
respect-
possibility.
I respect the opinion, but I don't think it is as bad as that. I honestly feel, and hopefully you would see in the coming weeks and months and years that we have left, Parliament will perform its duties. You see, every member of Parliament has been elected, has gotten votes. We have to go back to our constituencies.
Right.
At the end of the day, we are answerable to the people who have elected us. And like I said to you, earlier, you are not giving due credit to the people of Pakistan. You would be surprised what kind of questions they ask us when we go back to our constituencies.
right.
So, having said that, I think Parliament will perform its duties, will function, and you will see legislation happening. But we need to make an enabling environment.
Right.
And for that, everybody has to play their role.
I can identify an optimist when I see one. I see that optimist sitting on this set as well. Zain Qureshi Saab, thank you very much for your time. Same goes for you, Shoaib Shaheen Saab, thank you very much for being here. Zafar Sheikh Saab, thank you very much for being part of the program as well. We started by discussing Mian Nawaz Sharif's exit from Pakistan. But then we have to actually come back to the reality, that is everyday reality in this country. If you have any reform agenda in mind, you have to start implementing it, and it cannot happen till the time you don't start changing the law. And that is primarily the business of Parliament. If the Parliament of Pakistan does its job perfectly, I don't think that there will be any excuse for any Maulana to sit on the streets and agitate. Then people of Pakistan will be looking at the Parliament. Let us hope in coming days we see Parliament actually taking charge and executing its responsibilities as much as we expect. This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching us. Take care.